Welcome to the Insight Podcast. Joining me on the show today is Russell Baker. Now, Russell is my buddy from Down Under. We connected a couple of years ago. He's been on the show before, and I've been a guest on his podcast, the New Ways podcast. And he's my go-to guy, basically, when I have questions about tech, social media, websites, AI. When I needed a new website, logo, branding, he was the one I messaged. And thanks to him and his design studio, A Modern Remedy, theinsightpodcast.com is alive and kicking with a catalogue of all my episodes, searchable by topic. So all that stuff that you see on theinsightpodcast.com is down to Russell. But today's episode, I invited Russ to come on the show to talk about these topics that I'm really interested in. I know a lot of you are interested in as well. So we talk about the recent exodus of users from Twitter and why people are signing up to Bluesky, his predictions for social media in 2025, why you need to know about the breakup of Google and how it could affect you, why he thinks we need to be wary of the rise of AI. Linked to that, also ways to protect your data, privacy, and more importantly, your creativity and your authenticity in this modern age we're living in. Now, before we start, I've got a quick favor to ask. Please do hit the follow button wherever you're tuning into this episode. And if you've been listening to the show for a while, I'd really appreciate it if you rated the show too. This will help more listeners discover the podcast and the insights from all of my amazing guests. Now, for my conversation with Russell Baker. Enjoy. So, Russ, have you been on social media today? What are you checking? What do you go on?
Yeah, I have. So I've been on, so I feel like I'm admitting something here, but yes, so I checked social media earlier today. And that's comprised Bluesky. So I jumped on Bluesky, had a look at what was going on there. I've got a couple of posts that I want to dive into afterward. And then also just had a quick look around LinkedIn, dealt with the million notifications that it gives you that kind of turn out to be nothing. It's a lot of like, hey, you should look at this, look at this, look at this. And it's like, yeah. And that's obviously in stark contrast to something like Bluesky, where I actively just feel like exploring and looking around there. But yeah, so anyway, to answer your question, yes, I did check social media today.
That's interesting because now we can use that as a little diving board to my first question. But what you say about LinkedIn, I find that like you get 10 notifications like, oh yes, people are commenting and liking what I've put out there. No, it's just other people's posts. It's an article. It's them asking you to be an expert on something that you are you're not even in that field at all. So it's a bit of a funny one, isn't it? But having said all that, LinkedIn has definitely been it's been such a great place for me this year in terms of community, finding guests, encouragement and support from complete strangers. It feels like it's just a nice, professional, friendly place over at LinkedIn.
No, that's it. It's true, isn't it? It's definitely benefited or been one of the platforms that has benefited from the mass. I don't want to use the word exodus, but yeah, the exodus from Twitter, X. Why it's called X, YX. And yeah, you do find on there to our point about notifications, it's like what's even happening though to a degree, because you go through your notifications and it's someone you don't know posted a new edition of their newsletter that you don't subscribe to. You might want to check it out. That's like, what? Go, shut up. Like, I'm good. But yeah, there is a good aspect of community there too. And it is a bit more of a, what would you say, like an upper class sort of put together vibe versus some of the other less reputable or should we say social platforms that have fallen into not so good times.
That will not be named, but we're about to name them. Yes. No, it's true. There's some things that that you could post on X that you just no way could post on LinkedIn, isn't it? Isn't there? But talking of Twitter, talking of X, you didn't mention that. You haven't checked that. So can I take it that you don't use Twitter? Did you used to use Twitter? If so, why would you leave it?
Yeah. So I did use Twitter. I found myself initially with Twitter not actually being a member or anything like that, because back in the day you could just like load up people's profiles, you could see things, you could do pretty much everything. It was very open. There was a lot of interoperability with different clients that you could use, so you didn't have to necessarily use the Twitter website or the Twitter apps. You could use other stuff to actually read the tweets. I found myself following a lot of topics of interest. So journalists, people in different areas that I was interested in, and they just became bookmarks. And so I had a little subfolder and I'd just go open all, and it was 5 and then 10 and then 15 and then 20. And then I went, I should probably get on this. And it's probably easier if I'm in that ecosystem to or on that platform to follow people, and I can put them in lists, I guess, and stuff like that. And so this is back in probably was looking at Twitter from 2015, 16, something like there. But then didn't join until the late 20-teens, 2018, 2019, something like that. And was on for a while. And then I did begin to see, all the changes that were coming down the pike. And there's, we can jump into all that and the reasons for no longer being on there. So I got rid of my personal account. Business account is still on there, but went through, deleted all the data. I don't know, actually, to your point. I haven't checked it. Business account was never closed, but I left one of those posts that was, here's where you can follow us. It's not on here. That might actually be gone. It's a good point. I should probably go and check that. But whether or not that's on there anymore, I'm not too sure. And it was difficult as well to walk away from that account because, we had built, a several thousand strong audience over the years. We had, there were people on there that you would talk to, quite frequently, but the negatives quickly began to outweigh the positives, and I could just sort of see where things were heading. So decided to step away from that in, I think it was late 2023, toward the end of 2023, September or something like that is when I sort of stepped away, and I haven't checked it since.
Yeah. So you got off before the more recent exodus, if you want to use that word, of users, because a lot of people have left post Trump's re-election, haven't they? Is that something that you looked into? Are you interested in? Because it's something that I'm interested in, and that around that time was when I sent out my last tweet for kind of my own reasons and kind of piggybacking off the I guess the opinions of other people like Sam Harris and stuff, who I admire and respect, someone that I think, I don't know, has a strong moral compass, and the way he was talking about the role that Twitter and X has had and what it might have in the future, my ears pricked up, and I just I was the same, but just a lot later than you, where I was kind of I've got a big audience over here. I've made some great connections. It's a really useful tool, but do I feel right about being on here anymore? And, I might go back on it. I don't know. But for now, it's just, I've left that account kind of sleeping and I'm not posting on it. But my original question was, that you left before this kind of more recent exodus of users. And did you look at that recent, why everyone would leave then? And is it something you think about?
Yeah. So if I take that from the perspective of what were my reasons for wanting to leave, and were they the same, or did they match up with everyone leaving now? A little bit of yes and a little bit of no. So I could see the mismanagement that was occurring at the time. I mean, it's well documented, the whole blue check mark thing and stuff like that. From a business perspective, the ROI just began to not really make sense anymore, because there was a whole thing with advertising, and advertising was sort of falling to pieces there. They were increasing the costs of, basically pay to play. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to sign up for that. You cannot advertise unless you're verified. A whole bunch of different things that were effectively happening in the back end there. And I'm pretty good at seeing patterns, recognizing patterns, and sort of zooming out and going, oh, there's quite a big trend here, and cutting through all the hyperbole and things like moral panic and stuff that can occur. It's pretty easy to see a downward trajectory of the platform. And, I mean, I wrote a huge piece about it, that eventually it's going to be pay to play. Like you're going to have to pay to post, and they're rolling that out in some regions. So I keep up with that, the industry with regard to how it's all sort of shaking out. And it's just head shake moments constantly where it's like, of course, that's what you're going to do. Of course, you're going to rate limit people. Of course, you're going to put up paywalls. Of course, you're going to do this, right? You're going to protect your investment. And then, anyway, catching back up to sort of the election and everything like that, I think you saw two very strong personalities team up together, for now at least. The jury's out on whether or not they're going to get along for a long-term
Well,
thing.
apparently there's been some little thingies arguments already. I don't know if that's just hearsay, but anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Well, I think that there may be more of those coming, just because they are such abrasive personalities. And really it's that, right? So, if you take a step back and you look at Elon Musk, the man, and what he has done for Tesla initially and SpaceX and things like that back in the day, such a strong personality, not having to advertise because he would be the advertising. He had like 200 million followers on Twitter and did all this sort of stuff. They never famously spent any money in advertising. But, that the flip side of that is if you tie your brand so strongly to a personality, if that personality goes a bit strange, then that hurts the brand. And what's been happening, and again, I try to be apolitical here, but obviously there's a lot of discourse around his activities and his endorsements and all that sort of stuff that's not grokking, pun intended, with the everyday person. And so if you no longer align with this person's brand or values, that is obviously bleeding and rubbing off onto Twitter. It doesn't feel like your place anymore. It doesn't feel like that universal open town square. And then you bring Trump into the mix as well. Well, if you are someone that's maybe even in the middle, don't have to be on the other side of things, on the left-hand side of things, you might be completely in the middle and go, I don't actually like this dude. I don't like either of these dudes. I'm out of here. So you are sort of seeing that come through. But even before then, when I was having a look at Twitter and is this the right place for AMR and things like that, you could see that there were early steps being taken that, again, didn't make sense from an ROI perspective. It didn't feel like the place for us anymore. They were beginning to downrank any posts that had links in them. So they didn't want you to leave the platform. So if you linked to anything, your posts would get downranked. If you linked to things like famously Substack, if you had that in your profile, if you had different platforms in your profile, all of that contributed to less engagement. You're reaching less people. You're kind of effectively getting shadow banned. Downranking anything to do with the environment was one of the last straws for us, because they actively went in there and said, cool, if you talk about climate change, environmental science, anything like that, we don't like that on this platform, downranked. And it's like so funny that the person who's all about free speech and it's all about no censorship has their thumb so heavy on the algorithm and the community and the moderation aspect. And well, there's really trust. I don't think there's a trust and safety team there either anymore. That's a whole nother thing. But so beginning to see these things before the election and then them playing out in real time now, it just confirms that this is not the best place for everybody.
Yeah. And this is why, I mean, we chat quite regularly, don't we? And you're my kind of go-to guy to be like, what's going on here, Russell? Like, what's going to happen? And are you still on this website? Or tell me about this, what free software is there to help me do this kind of thing? And you've got your finger on your pulse of a lot of these issues. And yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? How someone that spouts so much about free speech, but then is like platforming certain people and just, either ignoring, but also at the same time, like maybe insulting or discrediting other, like the other side of the spectrum. And like, I don't know what could you give an argument for Twitter? Like what could anyone say is the positive about it? Because I guess Musk over there and other people are saying, well, that users are growing, like it's still a growing platform. It seemed to be like that after he took over. He kept saying more people are joining Twitter, the users are going up, and some people were saying it's just all bots. But I don't know what the truth is there. So there's that side of things. And then where was I going with this? Yeah, like what could be the argument? Like you're saying about people might say, oh, it's free speech and we get to have these conversations. But then it's like, if you've got the owner of it that's got like one of the largest followings of it, and he's retweeting things that then get proved to be misinformation, get proved to be like complete cons, or proved to be sourced by just AI or something, like there's no truth to it, and he's retweeting and saying, look at this. Like it was an issue during the election over here in the UK, where he was reposting information from certain parties and certain individuals, and insulting and taking the mickey out of the other side. And it's like, you are having such a big influence on people, and maybe more young people that aren't quite as discerning, or are still figuring them out. I mean, I'm 37 and I still have to be really careful about what I see on the internet. Like, is this real? Is this fake? What's going on? It's so hard. And when you've got, an 18 to 25-year-old age bracket, and they're still figuring things out, and they would just be so heavily influenced by these individuals, won't they?
No, 100%. I mean, the mind is not fully formed until, give or take, the mid-20s for people, right? And so, I don't know about you, but you ever see like the parents, like it might be, you're at a cafe or something, and they got the pram, whatever, and they give the kid the tablet, computer, or the phone, and the kid's like looking at it and doing stuff, and you see them, sometimes they put filters on like the selfie cam, and the kids are looking at it and seeing this, and it's like, what the impact is on that kid's mind, like to suddenly look like an elf or something. They're looking at their reflection and they look like an elf, and we laugh about it and stuff, but it's like, is that not like warping their reality? Right? Like it's a whole thing. But to your point of like the metrics and stuff, it's been corroborated and it's been validated by external, third-party sources and stuff, that, the user count, the monthly active users, is dropping. Elon's running around saying there's 600 monthly active users. Threads is, I think, about half that now. They've got up to about 300 million. And Bluesky total users it had gone just before the election. It was about like 7-8 million. It's jumped up to 20 million, and they're adding close to, I think it's like 500,000 to 1 million every other week. So they're quickly growing, right? And it's a bit difficult to compare monthly active users to a total user base, but you can see that it's trending in a certain direction. The analysis by third-party people is saying that Twitter is actually at about 300 and something million monthly active users. So it's about half of what they're reporting. All of the ad tech analysis is showing that advertisers are fleeing the platform. I don't mean to gang up on them all that much. And, to steal man, I think is what you're sort of getting at before. To steal man, the case. What do I sound like? What's that guy's name?
Lex Friedman.
Yeah, I feel like. Yeah, anyway. To steal man.
We're both dressed like him. Well, not like him.
Oh my gosh, we haven't even talked about that.
Yeah, we haven't got a suit on, but we've got the kind of the minimal dark aesthetic going on. We're both rocking the black headphones, the clear glasses, the black
clear
t-shirt.
glasses.
Just
I've got only 3 books behind me. You have 300 books behind, so I've got to catch up there. But
haven't read any of them.
Yes.
Just all for show. All for show. It's like the guitars behind me. Never played one. Can't play them. That is a joke, by the way, everyone. That's a joke.
Yes, he plays a mean guitar. I've heard. So yeah, to steal man, this we're obviously on the same team, as you said, with the same clothing and everything. But to steal man the case for Twitter, it's my approach as well to TikTok, which is they're regardless of the whatever you want to say about the platform, and in the negative connotations that go along with it, they're good people on those platforms that you can still reach. So you can be the beacon. You can be the ice water in hell. You can, if we're calling these things, hellacious, but you can be that beacon of hope. You can connect with people that might just be like, why am I here? What's going on? Someone told me to go on this platform. I don't understand. And you can still put out some good content, but you can then get them off platform. You can get them to your own independent platform, which is something that I really champion quite a lot, is that, not to fracture things too much, but really go back to the open web, how it was 20 years ago, when it was fun, when it was exciting, when we weren't talking about platforms and big tech and all that sort of stuff. You would just open up your browser, punch in some keys, and find the strangest and most wonderful things online. And I'm really about championing that. So where a lot of that is sanitized by these platforms, I think that there is still the opportunity to capture people that are on those platforms. Capture them is a strong term, but capture their attention and then bring them over to your own platform and show them some of that magic that I think we're kind of losing at the moment.
Yeah. You mentioned Bluesky. So tell me about that. Why is this? People might have heard that people are leaving Twitter to go to Bluesky. They might have taken a quick look, but what is Bluesky? Why is it any different to Twitter? Yeah, tell us more.
Yeah. Okay. So for the people that may not know what Bluesky is, it's a close cousin of Twitter. Is sort of how I would say it. Which, hold on, Russ, you and Sam have been beating up on Twitter, but hear me out. Architecturally, it's a close cousin. And that's sort of where that ends. It actually began as an offshoot, an incubator inside of Twitter. I'm forgetting the guy's name, Mike Mann, something or other, wrote a paper on protocols. I think it was called Protocols, Not Platforms. And his thesis was that we need to be shifting away from sort of this platform dominance of the social space, and that we need to be looking at it more akin to something like email, where you've got like a suite of protocols. You've got SMTP, probably, if you've ever had to set up your email, you're like SMTP, POP, IMAP, BIPAP, what is all this stuff? Protocols. So ways in which different things on the internet can communicate, just like, HTTP is a protocol, HTTPS is a protocol. No one owns those protocols. They're open, they're free, but they interface with different things. So I'm going to bring all this back to Bluesky in a second, but think about email for a second, right? You may have Outlook or whatever client you're using to consume your emails. That's the application. Underneath that, the thing that's actually delivering your mail, allowing you to send mail, receive mail, and all that stuff is a protocol. And that's effectively what Bluesky is and was. The initial idea behind that was about decentralization and distributed social networks. So Bluesky, and this isn't what you'll hear from media or anything, because all the media reporting on this is just looking at Bluesky like another platform. Really, what they're talking about is the Bluesky client, the web, the application, the website, that sort of stuff. But underneath that is a protocol that they've also developed, the AT, like at protocol. And those two bits together, that's Bluesky. The protocol aspect gets a lot less airtime. It gets a lot less because it's not that sexy, right? It's like Mastodon was doing this, but they were really upfront. Another social network, they were really upfront. We're decentralized, and we link into this thing called ActivityPub, and that's a protocol that can link into the equivalent of a Instagram that we've got running, and also a YouTube thing that we've got running, and then also Mastodon itself, which is more like a Twitter text-based social network. And so the idea with Mastodon was, what if you could like federate all of these different social media networks, and you could leave one and take your audience and go somewhere else. So like if you and I today closed our LinkedIn profiles, we lose our audience. It's over, it's done. If we create a new profile, we don't get to keep our audience. But the idea with shifting the conversation about social and other platforms away from platforms to protocols is that you can go anywhere, right? Like if you and I right now, and I did this the other week, I left Outlook. I said, see you later, Microsoft. I now use Thunderbird. Very happy with that. All my emails are there. I can send, receive, my calendar, all that. I didn't lose any of that stuff. Just because I changed the client doesn't mean I lose all my stuff. But right now, if you do change platforms, you lose everything. So that's the key differentiation with Bluesky and Mastodon to a degree over something like Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and all the rest of it. Threads by Meta, Facebook, is dipping its toe in decentralization as well. Oh. And great, that sounds amazing. But I think that's more of a, if we don't, we're in trouble, because the EU is pushing for stuff like this. Other, bodies around the world are pushing for this sort of stuff. So it's kind of like, they kind of have to, because they've already used up all their goodwill in the world. They can no longer do evil monopolistic stuff. It's not the time right now if you're in big tech to be a monopoly, because it's not a good look. So that's sort of the first thing that's different, right? At its very core, it's a different way of thinking about social networks. Then you've got other things like the fact that, Instagram, Twitter, Threads even is very top down with regard to feeds. So here's an algorithm. Here's some stuff that we think that you're going to like, deal with it. Okay, Sam, you've been liking pictures of puppy dogs. Guess what? Here's a million accounts about puppy dogs. You're going to give you all these posts from all these people. You're going to open the app. You're going to be like, where's all my friends? Like, why am I puppy dog king 97? Like, why am I being suggested? So, okay, I guess I'll follow that. So it's very engagement focused. It's very sticky. Stay on the platform. We know the drug that you're into. Here is infinite of that thing. Okay. But Bluesky allows you to actually curate your feed. So you can like build your own algorithm if you want. You can subscribe to someone else's algorithm if you want. You can be old school and go, I just want to see stuff from my friends, or I want to see hot things or the latest trending thing. Like, you can choose what you actually get through that service. I have an algorithm in there called Green Sky. So I get a lot of environmental based stuff. I get a lot of that information come through, which is relevant to me, right? But I could change that at any time. I could, whatever. I can change the content that I'm going to consume, which is really cool. Almost like you go from being passive to active. You choose the content that you want to consume versus these other networks, which are about sort of trying to get you to stay in the app by, hey, here is a bunch of addictive content. TikTok, a famous example of this. Then there's the interoperability aspect, as we said before, with regard to it being protocol based. So in the future, I'm not too sure of the timeline here, but in the future, Bluesky, the sort of web interface, the app that everyone is sort of talking about, someone else might come along and build a different client, a different front end. And people may navigate over there because there's feature X, Y, or Z. Who knows? Some people will stay with the existing one. So that's sort of the dream there, that there'll be multiple competing spaces where, trying not to get too airy-fairy here, but different spaces where Bluesky, the protocol, will be connected to and your social networks can flourish, right? So it doesn't all have to be at bluesky.com. It can be, or bsky.com. It can be somewhere else. And then there's the fact that, I guess, bringing it back, that they do share that lineage of the fact that this was an incubator-based project. It was actually begun by Jack Dorsey, the former CEO of Twitter before Elon took over. He went a bit crypto crazy, is a good way to sort of describe it. I don't know if you've seen what he looks like now, or he's gone full, no shade to any of my hippie friends or anything like that, but he's gone full out there. He actually pushed back and said, at some point he left the board and said, I don't want to be involved with this anymore. I'm all for Twitter. I wish I didn't sell it. Twitter is free speech. And he went like full that way. And he actually began backing another decentralized competitor called Noster, I believe, which is tied to like blockchain and crypto and stuff, which you going like, what is that? Is like, there you go. It's like, no one knows what that is. He knows what it is, but I think he's backed the wrong horse, so to speak. So it's very similar to Twitter, but it's also very different to Twitter. Hopefully that answered the question.
It does. It does. I mean, there were some words, like centralized and federated, and some people might be kind of listening and going, oh, I'm not quite sure. But when we're talking about centralized, so just, there's one place where all your data and information is, and they've got like the keys to everything. Whereas this is, I'm trying to like, what's the opposite? What do we say? Like open source or something? I don't know.
Decentralized.
Decentralized. That would make sense.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good. So you've got kind of more control, and I guess the kind of that, like the more nefarious aspects of social media that we think of is that side of things, the attention capture, and you've got the data, and like you're being kind of pretty much owned by these companies because it's a free app, so they've got to make money. So this is what they do, and it's really interesting, and how that can just get into a cycle as well so quickly, can't it? Like on Instagram Reels, TikTok, on Twitter, whatever it is, like you show a little bit of interest and then they show you more of that content, but then they'll slowly start showing you more extreme versions of that content. So you just kind of go down a slippery slope, don't you? Same with YouTube, of just becoming more extreme in your views. And then what have we ended up with? We've got like a polarized world basically here, haven't we? Where people are just completely opposite. There's no gray, there's just black and white. I'm right, you're wrong, and that's it. Because of the role that this has played, and like just the complete polarization of opinions. So people, I think, want to step away from that and feel like they've got a bit more agency and control. And so Bluesky, that sounds really appealing. Yeah, I can curate my own feed. And I think that's good to know now, because I downloaded Bluesky and I went on and had a little look around and started to try and follow some people that I knew from other platforms. But I quickly found that it was like the opposite of Twitter. Like, it was a little bit too, what's the word that I can be polite and not throw shade on anyone, but it was just a little bit too like lefty, like just everything's amazing and we're going to be so nice to each other here and all that. No one's going to say anything offensive. And it's like, I want something kind of in the middle where we are kind of having discussions and we're arguing a little bit because we're trying to find some common ground. It felt like it was just, this is the alternative to Twitter. We all hate Musk. We all hate Trump. And I'm not like there. I want something, I want to keep having conversations from everyone. And it felt like, it was just completely the other opposite end of the spectrum. But now I know maybe actually I should re-download it and curate my feed a little bit better and follow certain people and that kind of thing, create lists or whatever it's called.
Yeah. So I think the experience you had is, to use an analogy, it's like Bluesky is like going to a convention center, the convention on something that you're interested in, and you'd experienced the weird units that were like hanging around the lobby, the entranceway, and they're very loud. They're like, we're here, we're at the thing. Yeah, check it out. And it's like, okay, you just got to get beyond them. Okay. And there's not that many of them, to be honest, because another thing I should have mentioned as well, that's a bit different there, is there's massive focus on things like trust and safety. Mm-hmm. Like a core component of Bluesky's trust and safety. User moderation is huge, right? There's a big, when you sign up, you probably would have experienced this, and I signed up a year ago, something like that. So it may have changed since then. But when you get in there, it was like, what content do you want to see? Like, how moderated would you like things to be? Do you want it to just be like full, not safe for work? Do you want nipples everywhere? Or do you want like something that's a bit more safe for children and things like that? Like what do you want? Like, what do you want from us, sort of thing, right? In a good way. And that was another thing that really appealed to me, because I was like, oh, they're taking this very, very seriously. And all you got to do is look at the people running the show. Jay Graber, right? The CEO, okay? What's her political, I mean, you're probably like, who's this person? But what's her political inclination? I don't know. I don't know if you know. I don't know if anyone listening to this knows. That's a good thing. Who cares? Yeah. Right? I don't care. I don't see it as like, it's a butterfly. That's like the logo. It's not, okay, it happens to be blue. But, in Australia, the colors are the other way around. Blue and red mean different things here. But it's not heavily politicized, and I don't think it ever will be. I joined, during all this, tumultuous times with Twitter, I joined Post News. Really bet big on Post News. And I had the founder of Post News on my show as well during that time. And, talking to some of the engineers, and I made a lot of really good connections from that, unfortunately now closed down social network that persists to this day. But it did have that same thing where initially all there was a mass exodus from there at a smaller scale. All the sort of, the extreme lefties came on and made a lot of noise, and it did slowly begin to, go that way. I don't think that's going to happen with Bluesky, just because it's really community-based. And if you don't like that initial group that's hanging around the lobby, you can find your own communities. Another difference is, and I think that can help you achieve that, is the starter packs, right? So you can actually look up, or people would even recommend, like this, you just come across these starter pack things, which is like a list that you follow, and it like automatically adds all the people on the list to your follows. So for me, I did that with environmental people, like, environmental science and ecologists and things like that. And it's like, that's exactly what I want. It's like, here instantly you can find your tribe. Bang, done. There you go. Similar in a way to like Reddit, where you would join a subreddit based on something you're interested in. You can do that, but with all this user-generated content. So you really can absolutely curate your feed, and whatever bubble you want to be in, it helps you so quickly jump inside that echo chamber and really, radicalize yourself on environmental issues if you choose to do so.
This is a joke, listeners.
Yes.
Okay, maybe to round off this then, could you give I don't know, should we make it a challenge? Should we say 60 seconds? Predictions for 2025 social media. Is this trend going to continue? Is it going to stall? What's going to happen? Maybe a quick fire. What can happen in 2025?
Yeah, okay. I'll give you three. I'll give you three predictions. The first one is I do think this trend is going to continue. I think that you're going to see Bluesky continuing to grow. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that they get to about 50 million people next year. I think that's quite possible. So over double what they've got now. I think that's quite possible. I think you're going to see Twitter continue to become heavily politicized. I think you're going to see that really become entrenched over there, even more so than it is now. Downside of that, you're going to see advertising going down, because who wants to, advertise on a platform that is, as you're interested in, and I am, and everyone, something that's centrist? Who's going to want to advertise on something that is on either side of the extreme political spectrum? No one. And so users are going to shed, all that sort of stuff is going to shed. And then I think that the X factor there is Threads, because Threads are owned by Meta, which is like a tag-along service effectively to Instagram, had some initial popularity out of the gates. They're at about 300 million monthly active users. They need to monetize. At some point, Zuckerberg is going to go, yo, where's the money for this? Because if you know anything about him, if you read any books or anything about how his mind works, he is all about engagement and making money off stuff. So that's going to come up at some point. And they've already said, we're not really interested in doing news. We're not really interested in doing this and that. So I don't know that it'll stick around, but I don't think that's going to be the best place. I think Bluesky has a real chance to overtake them in the next, say, even 5 years. But last thing I'll say, they are also a for-profit company. Bluesky is also a for-profit company. They're backed by venture capitalists. They're a private company. They, at some point as well, will need to monetize. This is where things could get yuck for like a Threads, where it's like ads and all that sort of stuff happening. The difference with Bluesky is that, again, remembering they're a protocol and a client sort of fused together at this point. If they, to use Cory Doctorow's famous phrase, shitify their platform with ads and all this sort of stuff, someone else is going to make a new client and everyone's going to go over there. And so they say they're billionaire proof, that they cannot be bought, that things will not get that bad for that platform, right? And I believe them, because Microsoft sort of crapped the bed with regard to my experience. I left the Microsoft ecosystem, or I am in the process of leaving the Microsoft ecosystem. They don't own the email protocols. So I was able to fire up any client that I wanted to and jump over. And so it's like a proof of what I'm saying here. You can just, when things are protocol based, you can move. So the onus then is on the providers to really offer a good service, to do right by their users, to care about their communities. And so I think that that's going to win out, if not in 2025, by 2030, or, somewhere around there. So don't hold me to that, but I think in the long term, whatever time frame we're talking about, I think is what's going to win out.
Heard it here first. How could Bluesky make money then if you need to do it in the most moral, user friendly way? How can you make money? Is it subscription? Do you start like charging users a small amount per month or something to keep it either advert free?
It's a good point. And I think I either heard this somewhere or it came to me in a fever dream, but I feel like I heard them talk about like Bluesky Plus. And so they were going to have things like, at the moment, there's obviously like character limitations and stuff like that. They are announcing new features as they're maturing as a platform. But it's like eventually the VCs are going to come knocking. But they no longer have that lever to pull of like, make the thing really crap to get the money, growth at all costs. They just cannot pull that lever. So I think, it might be, all the stuff they did with, what was the Twitter Blue, right? Was that the thing? Twitter Blue? Yeah. Package of services that you had to pay for. They may do something like that. I highly doubt though they go down the road of forcing everyone to become verified, which then what's the point of that? So some sort of subscription, to your point, I think that'll probably be the likely play. Yeah.
Moving on then, let's talk about Google. Because Google's been in the news. It's another big topic. It has been in the news maybe, but maybe people aren't quite as aware of what's going on over at Google and what's about to happen. And can you fill us in? What's been going on and what is going to happen?
A lot. So a lot and a lot. That's another small story to tell. So what's been happening? So after years of litigation, Google has been found by the Department of Justice over in the US to be a monopoly when it comes to search and advertising related to search. Now, this is one, mind you, this is one of like multiple antitrust lawsuits that they're facing at the moment. So this is just like, if we just kind of narrow in on this one, that's the most pressing at the moment, because they have been found to be a monopoly. They've pushed back and said, hey, we're not. What are you talking about, man? And it's like, no, you're a monopoly, right? They're paying for their position as the dominant search engine. So they pay to be number one on different devices and for different services and in browsers and phones and stuff like that. So it's no longer seen as just organically they are just great. And that's proved itself out where, I'm forgetting the name of the executive, but back in like 2018, 2019, for the first time in maybe ever, their search revenue and number of queries were dropping. And Google didn't know how to feel about this. They're like, what do we do here? Okay, because things are kind of dropping. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? And a management consultant, not an engineer, but a management consultant over in the advertising side of things, and these two things should never intermix, search and advertising, because there's a whole bias and stuff like that, should not mix, led a coup to basically freak out the top level executives to say, we need to do something because this is the end of Google. If things keep going, and it just dropped by like 1 or 2%, but they're like, if it keeps going, that's the end of Google. Advertising being their and search being their core businesses, obviously. And so he then was able to put himself in a position where he became the head of search, and he decided, hey, let's roll back some stuff. Let's roll back a bunch of different changes that we've used, implemented to the core algorithm, the search algorithm. So how we think about what we search, what we look for, what we deem as good content. Let's roll everything back. All that stuff we did to clean up people that were hacking the system and gaming SEO and all that. Let's get rid of all that. Let's really like obfuscate the difference between an ad and a real search result. Let's make that really indistinguishable. Just a bunch of like shifty things. And what ended up happening was queries went up. So that must be a good thing. Or could it have been things were pre-2018, 2019 so good in search that you didn't have to search as much because you typed a thing in, you got the result, off you go, on your way, right? And so what ended up happening was, and I'm not that frequent a Google user, but to the people listening to this, you can probably think back to like 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago and how much better your search experience was. When you type things into Google, you actually got the thing you were looking for, versus now, not so good. So that's sort of one thing that's happened. The other thing, obviously, the antitrust lawsuit and the ramifications there. They're now in the sort of like remediation, I think they call it the remedies phase, where Google's been found to be a monopoly. That's proven, right? And they've said, here's some options, Google. Here's what you can do. You can, the first one that they put out was you can spin off Chrome, to divest yourself of the Chrome browser. Because, dear listeners, you may not be aware, but everything that you type into into Chrome, whether or not you use like in private, incognito mode or anything, that is all tracked. That all helps their sort of inform their search and different things there. So there's no sort of like, oh, I'm just using the browser. It's like, no, that free thing that they offer to consumers is consuming consumers. It consumes your data. It tracks you. There's no privacy there. So that's one big link that the DOJ has said you need to help break up this monopoly, get rid of Chrome, sell it, give it to someone else. They've also talked about breaking up with Android, same sort of thing, also YouTube. So there's a couple of different things. But the primary one for now to help bust up this monopoly is you've got to get rid of Chrome. And we're going to know whether or not that goes through, I think it's April next year, but it's pretty much a lock because they've been found to be a monopoly. Google is at the moment going, hey, what are you talking about? We're just a little old multi-billion, trillion-dollar company. Geez, wow, what are you on about? The judges are not buying this. And with the new incoming administration in the US, you might think, well, hey, Trump has said that he likes Google and he's going to let this thing slide. But all of his cabinet picks are vehemently against monopolies, vehemently against Google. So there's a big chance that this effectively happens. As someone that has been looking at this for like 10, 15 years, who is always seen as the strange guy, because I looked around at the tech landscape and went, it doesn't seem right that there's like 3 companies here. It doesn't seem right that there's like 1 company in search. There's like 2 in phones. I don't know. It never sat right with me. So I've always been a a proponent. I just didn't know that this was like called, antitrust, or it was anti-competitive. It just never sat right with me. And so I kind of called this, not to self-aggrandize too much, but I called this about 10, 15 years ago. I went, something's going to happen. You cannot have one 95% player in any market for like decades, and for that to just be like allowed by governments and stuff. People run around saying, oh, just Google it. I'll just Google. I know I've always hated that term, so I never say that. I say search the web. I'm a bit strange that way. But I think in the short term, to answer your question, big things are going to happen, and they're going to affect end users and businesses in a massive way.
Yeah. I mean, like when you walk down a high street, if you only saw 2 options for a cafe and they were just repeated, or there was only 2 supermarkets where you could buy your food from, like that's not what we want. It is strange how, these companies just completely dominate. They have our data. It's wild. It's wild. And you'd like to think maybe at the very beginning in Silicon Valley, when they were just starting up, they had good intentions. I'm sure Mark Zuckerberg, I'm sure these people like had good intentions, but then you just grow and grow and grow, don't you? And you get that.
I don't know about Zuckerberg.
Oh, really?
Because like Google, I'd say yes, but Zuckerberg, if you remember, cast your mind back. What did Facebook begin as? It was like a hot or not website, or like rating women at universities. So maybe not the Zuck, but Google, sure. Like their whole tagline was "Don't be evil." For the longest time, it's no longer. They took that down, maybe because they're being evil. But yeah, I mean, the spirit of innovation was there. You had. Tech was cool. Tech was interesting. 10, 15 years ago, it was like, hey, I can shake my phone and this thing now happens. Or YouTube, like amazing, like such a good thing. Or the mapping software that you can now go anywhere in the world. You can get yourself around any city. It's amazing. But we've shifted from an innovation-driven model to, with the rise of all these sort of executives that were never engineers, that were only managers who are now running all these companies. We've gone from an innovation-based model to a value extraction-based model. So it's how can we squeeze more out of the people that are paying for the services? How can we get their data and monetize it? And, I'm a massive proponent of, I pay you for X, you deliver Y. But a lot of these companies are now, yeah, sure, you use this service, but then we'll also take your data. We're also going to track you. We're also going to do this. We're also going to do that. And it's like, I think I'm not alone in saying this, but like, that's enough. Like, no, the deal, it doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah. And so again, kind of predictions, what's going to happen? What does it mean for the average person, the average individual who was using Google and might still be using Google, but what does it mean for their Android phone and their web browser? And also maybe linked to that, how can you kind of protect yourself a little better? And is there ways to kind of rebel a little bit of anarchy? We love that. I mean, my most rebellious thing, I don't use Google as a search engine. I use Ecosia. I don't know how effective that is. I don't know good, but it popped up one day on my phone and said that they were more kind of values driven and it was an eco-friendly search engine. So I was like, okay, great. I'll start using that. And it works just the same. I search things and it works just as well. But I don't know if that's just, greenwashing or whatever the phrase is.
No, Ecosia is they're very good.
Okay, good.
And because they plant trees, they plant trees based on X searches and stuff, which is a nice little feel good thing. But they also they're a good values driven, principle based company, as you mentioned. So how can people? What's it going to mean, and how can people sort of buff themselves against this? Well, what it's going to mean in the short term is a really good thing. So it's going to mean competition, which is amazing. Right. So it might be a bit bumpy where, over the next year or two, you might begin to see some significant changes in Google search, depending on the litigation and how that sort of, goes out and the outcomes of there. But, it can only be a good thing. There being more competition in the browser space, more competition in the search space means that this stranglehold that Google has, right? I mean, all you've got to do is think about something like SEO, discoverability, right? As it is now, all the SEO experts in the world who might say, we know everything about SEO, et cetera, and I don't mean to offend anyone there, it's all guesswork based on what Google puts out. The crumbs, the little nuggets of information that they decide to sprinkle out into the community. They never want to actually give out, this is exactly how our algorithm works. Because then you and I can just get together and build a new search engine. One of the possible outcomes of this trial is that they're going to have to begin to open up some of this and demystify some of this. So almost going back to our Bluesky conversation, someone might come along and build a better front end for a Google search, and people might go over there. Things like Ecosia, DuckDuckGo, as a few others, they're all actually getting search results from Bing. They're part of the Bing network, so Microsoft owned. And it's funny because a lot of people would, Bing is terrible. A lot of the people drinking the Google Kool-Aid, but then they'll happily use DuckDuckGo and go, yeah, it's so much better than Bing. It's like, yo, it's the same. It's the same thing. It's just a different front end, right? It's a privacy-focused front end. Slight differences. They don't share as much data and stuff like that. What you can do to protect yourself is to just look for options. I know it's difficult, and I know change is difficult, and it can feel uncomfortable, but there are better options out there. I have just, undertaken a really big adventure into the world of moving away from big tech. So I moved from like Adobe over to Affinity, the publishing suite, creative suite. I moved, as I said before, from Outlook and Microsoft 365 over to Thunderbird, which is run by the Mozilla Foundation, makers of Firefox, open source community. And then the same thing with a lot of my applications for desktop publishing. So Word and all the rest of it, got rid of all that. Went to LibreOffice, again, open source, free, stuff like that. Proton is a very cool vendor. They're over in the EU. They have the Proton suite. So they've got Proton Mail, a VPN, a password manager, a drive, so like cloud storage backup. And all their stuff is end-to-end encrypted. So there is no way that they can, even if they wanted to, sell user data to Microsoft, Google, whoever, they just can't. It's just encrypted, and it's impossible to decrypt. So there's no way that someone can...
The storage.
Some of those things are free. So anyone now can sign up for a Proton email address. I think you get like 5 gig of storage, or you'd have to sort of check that. I paid for a plan, so I get more storage and things like that. But for me, it was very important because I don't want my data being used to train AI, as an example, or anything that you put up into the cloud, anything that you have in any of the Google suite. So if you're using Gmail, they read your email. Right? If you're using Google Drive, if you're using Dropbox, if you're using, go read the massive terms of service, and in there it will say, some of them, whatever you upload here, I remember I think it was Dropbox. They made a change to their terms of service where they said anything you put here is technically our IP. And I'm like, no, that's a big red flag for me. I'm like, that's my stuff. That's not your stuff.
I've been sharing videos that I create, and that's my way to get them onto my phone, is to put them on Dropbox, so that then I can just, have a little file transfer. That's their IP now. Oh, Well, yeah.
Things to think about, right? It's like, what do you own? What's actually yours? What are you renting? What's actually your own stuff? So just get out there, have a look around there. There are a lot of privacy-based services. You could use DuckDuckGo. They're very privacy-forward. They've got a search engine. They've got a browser. Brave is another one. There's a Brave browser. It's another one that's very privacy-focused. And just, be conscious of what you're doing, because even though a lot of these services seem free, they're not. There's always a cost, right? There's always a cost. And a lot of these companies like Google, they seem benevolent. They're like, hey, we make YouTube's free, and this is free, and that's free. But they're monetizing you while you're using these services. You're actually the thing that they're making money off. So just to be mindful of that. And then actually, how will this affect businesses? I think it's going to be good in the long run, because right now discoverability is, I won't use that word. It's a pain. It's a problem. It's a B of a thing. And, Google's been ruined by SEO, right? So we've all come across you type in something, you get to a website, and it's like, it all looks the same. It's a bunch of headlines and text that doesn't answer the question. Or you type in this thing, whatever, local to me, and I'm trying to find a dentist, man. Like, why am I, this isn't what I want. And then you end up using the cheat code, which is Reddit at the end of your search. You get to a Reddit forum, you get real people who are like, yes, we're experts, we're plumbers. I have 1 million people in this subreddit. This is the screw that you need. And it's like, thank you. Like, I couldn't find that anywhere else. But even that's getting a bit funny, where they're introducing Reddit AI, where it's like summarizing people, and it's also hallucinating and coming up with its own stuff. Quora did this as well. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, guys, this is about human to human connection. Like, get the bots out of here.
Yeah. I mean, and let's move on to that last kind of topic, I guess, of the big three that I wanted to talk to you about. which was social media, search, and AI. Let's move on to AI. And it's funny you say about that, like less people that, I know people maybe not in this space, and I'm not in this space, but I feel like I'm online enough now to be able to spot AI and the bots, and not just the pictures, but like the text, like this doesn't look great. And the way it's starting to like slowly infiltrate, I see like people's comments and stuff that look like it's from someone that I know, but they've clearly like taken the post, put it in AI and said, can you make me a comment on this? And then copy and pasted. That's what it looks like to me, because it's so sanitized. It's so fake. And other people just on Instagram, you see like they've got a picture and then a post, and it just looks like you didn't write that. Like, come on, let's hear from you. But you've clearly just said, can you write me a post on blah, 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 blah. So that maybe can be our little entry point into AI, because this has been the year of AI, hasn't it? There's no denying it, like the difference from the beginning of the year to now. And I think now people realize what AI can do. And I guess we're only talking about one form of AI, aren't we? These large language models that people are kind of understanding, ChatGPT and stuff. So what's going on? What has been going on? And then maybe we'll talk about your thoughts on what's been going on. As well.
Yeah, I have a thought or two about this. As you can probably guess, I have some thoughts about some stuff. So I guess in one hand, it's been the year of AI. So on one hand, yes, it's been the year of AI. But then I pushed back on the assertion that it's been the AI in terms of like it's arrived. Because we're still being promised a future with AI. If you listen to these hype men and hype women and hype people, you're being promised a future of something that hasn't actually been fully realized yet. Okay. So there's been, constant rhetoric around this is the future of everything, and this is going to do all these amazing things, and it's going to revolutionize everything. And then, what was it, 6 months to a year ago? It was, this may destroy the world, from the same people making these things. That was a play. That was a play that has backfired because it hasn't destroyed the world. I don't think it's going to destroy the world. I don't think we're having a Skynet situation anytime soon. But what you've seen, is a lot of, I guess, despite a lot of breakthroughs and despite a lot of I'm quotating here, a lot of quotation of breakthroughs. I don't think this is the year of AI in terms of it arriving, it revolutionizing the whole world. I don't think that's actually going to happen.
Okay.
Because, and I got to preface all this with saying, I am absolutely a futurist. I'm absolutely a techno-optimist. I love technology. I love the internet. It's how I have found love, jobs, business, opportunity, connected with you, connected with, so many people and places and things, and learned so many things and just been afforded so many opportunities. Technology has and always will have a very special place in my heart. That said, I don't think how AI is being presented, especially in this year as well, will end up being what it truly gets known for or used for. I think it's going to end up being, in some instances, very niche case, having a very specific role or gap that it fills, but I don't think it's going to be the be all end all. If you listen to the AI hype people, it will replace you, me, it will replace video, audio, to everything, right? But then you look at a lot of this sort of stuff. If you really apply a critical lens to a lot of this stuff, it's like, well, what is the use case here? Like, what does it actually solve? You see the demo of someone pointing at their pantry and going, hey, AI name of company bot thing, tell me what I can make to eat here. And it's like, mate, you have bread, some peas, some other thing, and some other thing. You're making a sandwich. Like, if you need AI to help you with that, I don't know what to tell you, right? But you got bigger problems. Like,
if you're making a pea sandwich as well, that's worrying too.
Right. I just, it was the first thing came to my head, but it's like, right. Or, hey, I can use AI to, help with my writing and stuff like that. And it's like, cool. Then you'll never get good at writing. And not everyone is good at writing. And that's, I'm not trying to, cast a thing there or anything, but some people are better at writing than others. And some people are better at this than that, and this person than that, and all that sort of stuff. But you don't get better by not doing the thing, right? You get better at writing by writing and by reading and by exercising that muscle. And then you get better at it. If you're always like, hey, give me the thing, give me the thing, give me the thing, what do you learn, right? You're 150 150 or something, or close to episodes now. You are
135. Yeah.
135. You are much better at this now than you probably were at episode 1. And I bet you're going to be much better at episode 235, right? You're amazing now. And I'm so happy for the success that you've had and that everyone should listen, follow, subscribe, everything right now for Sam. Right? But if you there's nothing stopping you right now from going to ChatGPT or whatever and going, hey, prompt me, I want like 3 things to talk to Russ about stuff, whatever, spit out some stuff. Then there's nothing stopping you going, okay, to another or the same engine and saying, hey, I'd like you to write the script for me. Then there's nothing stopping you from going, okay, to 11 Labs or another voice cloning, AI-based thing, and saying like, hey, here is enough samples of my voice. Now I got the voice. I feed it the script based off the prompts that I got. Here's an episode. Awesome. Publish. And then you look at the AI agents that Google is developing that will control your browser, and then automating that whole process, sitting back and letting the Insight podcast get to episode 5 million in like two weeks or something. What do you learn from that experience? What value of ownership do you have over that experience? People have an intrinsic need to do some good, to hang their hat on the hard work that they do and go, yeah, look what I did. Look at the effort that I put into something. Look at the results that I achieved. And when you automate that whole process, when you outsource your cognition to a bot or whatever it is, you lose all of that. You lose the thrill of it. You lose the challenge of it too, right? Because it's not all linear and it's not all, everything is great and fantastic and stuff like that. Yeah. But
can I jump in there? Because I just think before we move on, I think that's so interesting because of the way it resonated with me in terms of kind of my journey, I suppose, with AI, which was kind of being like a lot of people discovering it and going, oh, wow, this looks really cool. I'm going to have a little play. And then to think, well, right, the podcast and my social media and stuff, it's all me. Like I don't get any help. I got some very nice help for the website, a modern remedy. Check it out. Check out the website.
Check it out.
Designed by Russell.
Yes.
But apart from that, it's all on me. So I thought, well, this is a tool that I can use to help kind of streamline things and make it a bit easier. So I will type in, I've got this guest coming on. We're going to talk about this. Could you give me 5 questions? And I've got the recording now. I've got the transcript. So can you make me a great title? And I never actually used those things, but I kind of was inspired by them. So it maybe gave 5 questions, but they were just like, it just wasn't quite me. So then I kind of edited a bit or I just took one, you know what I mean? So kind of dipping my toe in it, but I'm already feeling the dumbing down effect on myself. I feel like this year I'm just not thinking as kind of creatively, and there might be other factors going on there. I'm not sure, but it's really weird to see that, like, because I've still got just as much time. In fact, in the last couple of months, I've got even more time, but it's like I haven't been able to be as creative and like motivated as I was before. And I'm just wondering how much this played into that. And then the other thing is thinking about kind of competition, which I know isn't the way to think about it at all. But I'm like, well, if other people are using these tools and they're going to get out more episodes than me and they're going to get to the audience that I want to reach, and I'm going to be on the back foot here. If everyone else is doing this, I hear about, Stephen Bartlett and the way he uses AI and stuff, not comparing myself to him. And it's like, well, if everyone else is going to do this, then what, am I just going to get left behind? Am I just not going to be as productive as those people? And so then it just feels really overwhelming. And you kind of just go, I might as well quit then, because I'm never going to get ahead of the curve here. I'm never going to be at the top of that wave. I'm always going to be kind of swimming a little bit behind, trying to catch up with people. So just forget it.
I mean, it's a fair comparison to make, right? Because what made, Diary of a CEO or pick whoever, like let's pick whoever in your mind, form the picture of the person that you really respect and admire, listen to, a thought leader in the audio space, video space, whatever. What helped them grow initially was authenticity.
Yeah,
was them, right? Was their true voice coming through. Now, I've seen people and I've worked with people where they use AI to just spit out stuff. And sure, they will get more posts out there, get more episodes out there, get more stuff out. They will be, quote, more productive, but at what cost? Because people are not going to stick around to consume cookie cutter content, people which all has the same voice, which all has the same style,
tone,
phrasing, formatting, tone. Exactly. People are not going to stick around for that. I would rather listen to the next 150 episodes whenever you get to them of this show, then listen to you next year, you get to episode 500, but it's all powered by AI. Because I know it's not you. Yeah. I know it's not the authentic Sam. I know it's not the authentic, credible, tangible, real, relatable voice that I want to hear. And so I wouldn't worry about that. These people are going to punch themselves out. They're going to rush to these milestones that don't matter. They're going to burn their audiences. They're going to grow. It's going to happen. People are going to come through, but then the churn and the cycling in and out is going to be big. Versus if you can build a small, but growing, dedicated, connected audience that resonates with what you're talking about and the guests that you bring on, the conversations that you have. I'm using you as the example here. Who cares? At what speed you do that, at what time frame or window it takes to achieve. If it's persistent, if it's real, if it's tangible, if it's authentic. I keep going back to that word, but if it's authentic, I don't think it matters. I really don't think it matters.
I'm going to cut that, and I think I'm going to put just that little audio file on my phone, maybe listen to it every morning. Because absolutely, it's true. And it's the same with any time I do post the most authentic thing that I post, as in maybe not authentic, but the most relatable thing, the most kind of vulnerable thing that I post always has the most interaction. And that's when you get that proper buzz. It's not off the post where it's like, oh, these 5 things will help you sleep better or whatever. It's like, no, I've been having a crap time recently and I've been sleeping terribly, but I tried this and it kind of helped me. It's like, that's what people want more now, isn't it? But it is so difficult. I mean, I've seen other podcasts jump ahead of me. They just started and then they used all this fancy camera work and everything. And so their clips look great and they've jumped ahead of me in terms of views and subscribers. And then I actually listened to an episode or I watched the video for the entirety. You didn't talk about anything. You talked about, you just, there was no substance here whatsoever. It was just so boring. You just talked about something so vanilla and just all nodded along and agreed with each other. There was no authenticity. There was no kind of opening your heart to anyone. There was no connection. It was just chatting. But because you've got these tools, you're blasting ahead. But like you said, it's reassuring. And we've maybe seen it in other people in other instances as well, where, people will jump ahead and maybe they'll make their thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions. It'll be great for a couple of years. And then they'll just burn out or die, or they'll die out, not just die. I'm not wishing anyone on that. Oh, got a bit dark then. Or just drop off the face of the earth because, it's not actually true to them.
And that's exactly right. When I mean, with the show that we have, New Ways, we're at episode 19, 20, something like that. We've taken a pause. We're going to head into season 3 next year. And, in doing research for guests, you would listen to shows, you would go and to your point earlier about what should I talk to this person about? I would do research on the person. And I would be like, okay, as the host, it's like, okay, what are they into? What are their achievements? And I would do basically back in my uni days, getting papers that whatever, they're on the wall behind this thing, but whether or not they mean anything, whatever. But they're all science-based. And part of that was you'd go out and conduct a literature review. Right? There was a process to writing, which I went through, wrote papers. There was a process to that madness. You had to begin somewhere. And then there was the next phase and the next phase. And it was, you would go out and basically get a look at the field. What's out there? What's been written? What's contemporary? What's historical? And that would point you in the direction of your query and begin formulating a thesis. And then, obviously operationalize that with your hypothesis and stuff like that. But it would begin with a lit review. And so I would take the same approach to guests, where it's like, something's obviously, we booked this person, they're coming on, there's an interest there, there's some overlap in technologies or interests or values, whatever. Now let's do some more dig a bit deeper. And through that process, I would learn things about them or learn the questions to ask. And that was so rewarding. And the number of times I'd get people going, That's a good question. Or I never thought of that, or whatever. And again, not to, aggrandize or anything like that, but that drove me, because that was like signaling, like, I'm onto something here. If I outsourced all of my cognition there to AI and said, they're going to get Sam. I mean, I know obviously we've been on each other's shows a couple of times, but I don't know, something about Sam. Like, first of all, it's probably going to go out and maybe not pick you. It's going to pick some other Sam. So that's not going to help. But it's going to go out there. The things are going to be so sterile. They're going to be so cookie cutter. They're not tailored to you. They're not from me. My thought isn't in it. My heart isn't in it. And so then how can it ever replicate that? And here's another thing that I'd add to that. I think there is a use case for AI in certain situations. I think there's a use case, certain niche cases where it can help with your productivity. Okay. But then the low-hanging fruit of, I'll use it to just do all my homework or whatever, it's there. People are going to do that. That said, it can never fully replicate what I do, what you do, the connection that we will foster, the sort of things that we'll be able to facilitate back and forth. It can only ever, there was another paper, I think it was called like AI is, sorry if we keep swearing in this, but bleep me out. AI is a bullshit machine, because it synthesizes things. It's synthetic. It's predictive. It has no reasoning, even though all the new OpenAI models are reasoning models. It's a fallacy. They cannot actually reason. They're not, alive. They're not real things. They synthesize based off of what's already out there, so that they cannot come up with unique, original thought. All they can do is, it's basically another form of search. That's what AI is. It's a new mode of search. And I prefer to live in this space of innovation. And I want to sit there and think and dwell and come up with the idea myself, as opposed to someone going, here's the answer to the test. It's 72, 68, 45, blue, green, orange, pink, whatever. It's like, I get no joy from that. I don't know about you, but I want to work for my stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to think what the question I want to ask now, but I don't think it's a question. And I'm not sure we need to kind of dive further, because maybe when I thought I'd talk to you, I maybe thought we'd talk about, I know, some of the technicalities and advances and moving forward. But I like that this has been more of a call to action and a reminder of the humane, the creative, the authentic side of things. And it's a really good reminder for me and how I'm going to look at next year and my use of AI or not use of AI, if that's a word. But maybe, I don't know, is there anything that you'd like to add about your predictions about how it might affect us? I think we've maybe kind of already covered let's be a bit cautious here, and here's why, because it's not you, and you might take off like a rocket ship, but then you'll fall back to the ground instead of just being that nice, smooth, I don't know, glider that just keeps going without needing any jet fuel behind it.
Yeah. So I think that, I think it's actually bearing out now, but the people, companies, and brands that are beginning to become more personable are winning big, and they're going to continue to win big, not just in 2025, but in the years ahead. So, and I'm blanking, it was either Shopify or Spotify. They did their earnings call. The CEO took a selfie video walking around discussing the financials. It wasn't a press release. I mean, sure there was, legally they had a press release, but that's how they delivered the earnings, on a selfie, from a shaky cam. And that's a night and day to we're excited to announce growth year over year of blah, 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 whatever. And so people are kind of sick of that, right? Yes. PayPal and oh God, you want something funny, go look up the most recent, SanDisk, the company that makes USB sticks and the little micro SDs. They redid their corporate branding, and the drivel, the hyperbole, just the what are you on about, mate? They first of all, it looks like now it says can dick. Read into that what you will, but it's almost on it. You can't read what the company. It's all broken graphics and stuff. So there's that. And then they said this helps to facilitate. What was it? It was I think I've got like PTSD.
The building of
like,
dreams or something.
Yeah, more than that. It was like this helps us foster our unique vision of connectivity through advancement. And you just like, you make memory. Like that's all that you do. Like the people are making the memories, right? But you just like a thumb drive, man. Like know your lane. And so people are like they're disengaging from that. They really are. We're seeing more and more people are sort of, they're done, as you rightfully have noticed, like the AI slop that's out there. People are burned out from hearing about all their friends being laid off because some, executive that's given themselves a bonus has gone, hey, we can replace all these people with an AI thing. Oh shit, no, we can't. Please come back at a reduced rate. People are sick of those stories. They want real stories. They want real people. They want real connections. So I think my biggest prediction for next year is that 2025 is going to be the year that the AI bubble begins to deflate. I think that you've got, and this isn't just, I say I think a lot, but it's bearing out. Industry insiders are also echoing this, that there's all this money put into AI. It's being shoved down our throats because there's so much money being put in there. They have to try to generate some revenue. You're going to begin to see these VCs and these companies like Microsoft go, hey, what does this actually do? What purpose? Like, what does this solve? Where's the proof? And they're going to become, an increasing knock at the door to say like, hey, we need the proof of concept. We need the return on investment. That's why you're seeing OpenAI had the 12 days of shipmas, not shitmas, but shipmas, where they announced, hey, 12 new things you can do with our models. And one of those is a $200 a year subscription or a month subscription. It's like, okay, that solves me having money. Yeah. That's a bit odd. It's like, where's your homework? The teacher's saying it's due. And they're like, distractions. So I think that you're going to begin to see the hype cycle break down. I don't think AI is going to go away anytime soon. I think there's going to be a realignment of what AI actually means. Because at the moment, like if I don't know, Casio makes a new calculator tomorrow, it will be AI powered. It's like, no, it's a calculator, dude. So you're going to see the unwinding of a lot of that sort of stuff. And the rise of what I like to call organic intelligence, the return back to organic intelligence. Everything we've said today, right? Talking about connectivity, talking about personability, talking about putting the person and people together. Because AI is another one of these technologies that it disconnects people, right? Mm-hmm. Like you didn't ask someone for ideas, you used AI. You didn't hire someone to, I'm not saying you, but you didn't hire someone to put together some music. You used AI. You didn't do it. You used AI. And so it's like, why? I don't need to hire someone. I can whatever with computers. And we need to not lose sight of the fact that there are a lot of talented people out there, a lot of credible people out there, creative people, like all across the board. And we're going to lose that. We're going to lose, like for my show, I went and I got someone to do the audio. I could have plugged some stuff in and gotten an AI generated track. And then when I wanted to update my music, same thing. I went and I got someone and I paid them and I got their music. We went back and forth. We tweaked it and all the rest of it. Yeah. Whether or not you like the music on my show, I decided to pursue that. I wanted to actually put that money back into people's hands as opposed to putting that money into big tech's hands. They have enough money, right? They're making billions and billions of dollars every quarter and laying off more and more people. They're good. They're going to keep. I would rather pay the average Joe or Josephine, as opposed to giving any more money to these companies that have enough.
Feels like a good place to end the conversation there. But man, this is why I love meeting up with you, Russell, and chatting about these things, because you're right there in the trenches, you're doing the research, you're experimenting, you're swapping things out, you've got your values at the heart, and that's really shines through as well. And so I'm just so glad that we continue to connect, and that, I've got someone to talk to about this stuff, and that like kind of pushes me back on things as well. And it's like, oh, steady on there, don't get too excited about this, and I'll just be a little bit cautious, and yes, you could do this, but also try this. I think that's what we need, those little reminders. And I think this conversation has been another great reminder of the way things are, the way things are looking, and how we can exercise a bit of caution, but also just be a bit more kind of conscious of our choices. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Just being a bit more conscious and aware rather than just going with the flow that everyone else seems to be going with. It's like, no, actually what's important to me and what do I value? What can I decide here? Just being more human. So really appreciate your time again for coming on this morning for me, this evening for you.
It's always a pleasure, and I do really appreciate it. It's always a blast to speak with you and share ideas, and I hope none of this has come across as sort of beating up on technology or things like that. But it's more, as you just said, to be that sounding board, to consider the flip side, and not to get too swept up in the hype of things, because there's always two sides to every story. And I just invite everyone to think just a little bit more critically about what they do, how they do it, or what they're being sold. And is that actually a good thing or not?
Cool. Would you finish with 3 quick fire questions if you've got time?
Let's do it.
It's been a while since I asked you last time, so I'm interested to see if any of these have changed. But the first one, what's one lesson you wish you'd have been taught when you were a child?
Yeah. Joss, I'm trying to think what I said last time, but what I would say now is, and both are true, is the power of pause. So I guess coming back to what we were saying, really just take a beat, right? When something comes up, when you have an interaction with someone, positive, negative, or whatever it is, maybe more negative in that nature, this may help you, is just to take a beat, right? Invite some space, invite some clarity, because you're also inviting empathy. You're also inviting a more rational, reasonable response, which is going to lead to a better outcome. Too often we are quick fire with that kind of quick fire, rapid fire, but we're quick to the trigger to react to something. And I would say the power of pause means that you don't give away you don't give away your power by emotionally reacting to something. It's not to say you need to be a robot or anything like that, but you'll have a better outcome if you have a more measured response to something, especially if it is more negative leaning, if that makes sense.
Next one. Is there a habit that perhaps you've added to your life, or a habit that you've taken away from your life that's helping you feel happier and healthier?
Yeah, I know. I would say it's more health-based. I think last time I talked about, it wasn't nutrition, but I'm going to focus on nutrition this time around. And that's like toppings. Okay. So yeah, you might be like, what sauce? You'd be spruiking. No, it's more around making healthy swaps with toppings. So a thing that I've been doing, and I like meal prep, but this is something that's very easy for everyone to do at home. It takes like 5 minutes. You don't have to be a whiz in the kitchen, spend a bunch of money, or take 10 hours. I've just set aside a container in the fridge. And what I do is I cycle ingredients in and out. But I've been, shredding up some lettuce, some baby spinach, some carrot, bean shoots, hemp seeds, something else in there. And I'm changing in and out the ingredients. And I've been adding that to meals to add in some extra vitamins, some extra minerals, get more vegetables in, get some healthy fats and things like that. It also helps with weight loss. So if you're looking to sort of trim up, it's something that you can add to get a bit more density to your food. And just top on top of whatever it is. If you're, making a stir fry or a wrap or a burger, or even like you can add extra filling in there. That is healthy, nutritious, and it's real simple to do and real easy. And you feel great afterwards as well.
Love that one. And the last question, if you could give everyone in the world one book, which book would you give them?
I said Your Own Diary last time. I remember that. Because you author it. And so I'll break from that tradition and say, like, lately I've been going through a lot of the old classics that I have. And so I even have it here. I've been rereading this guy right here.
Yes.
So for those that are not seeing that on the screen, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, R.I.P., I believe it was earlier in the year. I highly recommend that for anyone that wants to, maybe I'm being a broken record here, but anyone that wants to sort of regain a bit more control over their thoughts, their thought processes, invite some systems thinking. So not being, too reactionary to things, being a bit more strategic with your thinking. Again, inviting pause. I feel like all of this is coming down to critically analyzing and thinking about stuff. But it's a really good read. It's a long read. I think it's like nearly 500 pages from memory. But that's something that, go out of your way to grab a copy. And as someone that is very much into the circular economy, gift it afterwards to someone else, because you can share the wisdom in that book with someone else without having to have another tree or anything like that cut down.
Nice. Now, as well as the social media, the news, the AI, all of those interests, you're a bit of a creative genius as well. Logos, websites, all this stuff that you do. If people are interested in that and finding out about A Modern Remedy, where can they go? Where can they connect with you?
Yeah, I thank you for the opportunity to plug that. But so if anyone is interested in things along the lines of like brand strategy, growing their brand, things of that nature, more from a values-based perspective, right? Because you can go anywhere to get a lot of this sort of stuff, but you're interested in something that has strong values, as you can probably tell from our conversation. modernremedy.com is the main hub, I suppose you'd say. You can see some of our work. We are updating the website. I don't know when this is going out, so you might be seeing version 3.0 of the site. 4.0 is coming in the new year. Outside of that, you can follow me on LinkedIn, either at my name, just look up my name, or A Modern Remedy. We're on LinkedIn, and also we're on Bluesky, so you can look up myself at Russ Baker.bsky.social, and then same thing, but A Modern Remedy.
Nice one. Thank you so much again for coming on the show again, and I'm sure you'll be back on again.
Yes, round 3. When I saw that, I'm like, are we going to fight or something? Like round 2? Like, what's happening here? But it's always a pleasure, mate. And great conversation as always. I appreciate it.
Cheers, man. Thank you for tuning in. I really hope you found that conversation with Russ insightful. If you did enjoy the episode, please share it with friends, family, colleagues who you think would find it interesting too. And please also support the podcast by following and rating this show on whichever app you're listening on. Thank you again, and I look forward to bringing you another episode soon.